How we doing? Good. All right, so we're starting a new sermon series. It's called The Real Christmas Story. And what we're going to do during the season of Advent is talk about some of those good old-fashioned traditional movies that we all grew up with, and if you're like me, still watch them today. We're going to be, for me, it's not Christmas until I've seen It's a Wonderful Life. So I'm not gonna like it. And also, it's got to be followed up by a Christmas Story, because I just love that movie. So it's like, it's not Christmas until I've done that. And so because of that, I thought it would be fun to take a look at some of those movies and try to find, and you don't have to try very hard, the Christmas message in them that speaks to us as Christians. They're actually filled with it. The similarities between our story and the story that we find in these different movies is just truly amazing. So I hope you will see some of that over the next few weeks as we go through this sermon series. So with that, our scripture reading this morning comes from the Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, where we read these words. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. So this week, we're going to take a look at the movie Miracle on 34th Street. So I'm learning the better question is, who's not seen this movie? There's only one. I'm not surprised you haven't seen it. Black and white and really old. So. And you haven't watched the black and white, you can't watch the remakes of this movie. This is not good. It's the original that's good. The characters in it are awesome. So a little bit about this movie, so you all are a little familiar with it. Know what I know. This movie won 5 Academy Awards in 1947 when it came out. 5 Academy Awards. And to this day, it is still one of the all-time top inspirational movies according to the American Film Institute. I concur with that. I mean, when I think about it, I would list it right up there with some of the other greats. It's just a movie that touches us. In this movie, we discover the joy of faith. And you know, we do that without the movie ever saying anything about faith. And we discover who Kris Kringle really points us toward. Okay? Those are the 2 big things we're going to be looking at this morning. So what I'm going to do is, well, let's actually start here. When does Christmas start? Christmas Day. Somebody trying to get a gold star up here. Yeah, that's right. I just want to make sure we all know that. We are not in the Christmas season yet. I mean, the world outside these 4 walls would want you to believe that, right? The commercialism has started. Matter of fact, I think Advent starts a week later this year. I think so. That means that Christmas got a week earlier start this year, right? In the secular world. Matter of fact, used to stand up here and say Black Friday was the beginning of the Christmas season. Not this year. The Black Friday sales were before Black Friday this year. I can't believe it. So the build-up is, I think 2 weeks ahead of Advent, and we're still 4 weeks from Christmas. And so we got a 6-week head start. Should be no excuses, folks. No excuses, not at all. So what is Advent? Why, in the life of the church, do we go through, do we need Advent?
To prepare ourselves spiritually to come to Christ.
You're almost dead on, but you missed one piece. See, I can't say that there, great. I know I can say that. What did she miss? What's the piece that she missed? Well, she said preparing for the birth. I assume she meant the birth of Jesus, right?
Yes.
Just making sure.
I'm sure there's other meanings of it, but the most important one is Jesus.
Okay, so let me ask you, because this is what most of us think Advent's all about. But it just subtly misses the point. You want to give it a try? The coming of Christ, because a baby's already been born. That's past tense. Advent is the preparation of our hearts for the coming of Christ now. We focus on the baby Jesus because that's the story of Scripture that allows us to connect with the coming of Christ. But the actual purpose of Advent is preparation for your hearts, for your souls, for your minds, for your being in the second coming of Christ. In the today, in the very now that we live and breathe. Okay? And the thing is, we do this in a church season, 4 weeks. In reality, we should be living this year-round, right? Because we should always be preparing ourselves in our hearts for the return of Christ. Because, quite simply, we don't know when that's going to happen. So we need to always be in that mode of preparing. But Advent is a season when we focus on that preparation so that we're better prepared for the rest of the year. So that is truly the purpose of Advent, the coming of love to the world. Somebody said that in the first service this morning. I thought that was a beautiful way to phrase it. For the coming of love to the world. So, this morning, I'm going to take this movie and I'm going to break it down into 3 different acts that we're going to talk about. And the first one is a loss of faith. So, before I play this clip, we're going to see Susan. I got the name right? Susan's the child. Doris and Fred are going to be in Doris's apartment having a conversation. Doris is the HR person in charge of Macy's, the largest department store, I think maybe still to this day in New York City. And Fred, who's an aspiring lawyer that lives in her apartment building that's kind of like stores a little bit. And Doris's daughter's sitting over in the window watching the parade. Doris has just gotten the parade kicked off. And so she's now in her apartment watching it with her child and Fred. What happened before she kicked this off is that her Santa Claus showed up to get on the sleigh and ride in the parade, but Santa showed up drunk. And so we're not going to put a drunk Santa on the Christmas parade float. So she's in panic mode, trying to figure out what to do. And Chris Springer comes along. Just happens to be there. And he comes along and she hires him on the spot because he looks the part and the suit fits, right? And so she puts him on the float. Watch this one.
There goes Santa Claus.
Don't even mention the name.
He's much better than last year's. At least this one doesn't wear glasses.
This one was a last-minute substitute. The one I hired, I fired.
Why?
You remember the way the janitor was last New Year's?
Oh, yes.
Well, this one was much worse.
I see she doesn't believe in Santa Claus either. No Santa Claus, no fairy tales, no fantasies of any kind. Is that it?
That's right. I think we should be realistic and completely truthful with our children, and not have them growing up believing in a lot of legends and myths like Santa Claus, for example.
Legends and myths like Santa Claus and such. Dear So, there's some symbolism that I want you to see here, right? She is living in her world, we would say, the logical world. She's all about logic. Okay? Doris wants to be able to touch and feel and see the numbers to prove things, right? She wants to live in her words, a real world, a realistic world. This is really what the world is all about. It's pretty cut and dry for Doris because she can calculate everything she believes in one way or another, right? And that's the way she wants to live her life. And therefore, she has this notion that there's no such thing as Kris Kringle. I just don't get that. And so there's this idea taking place here that's very similar to what takes place in our culture, because our culture says, Christmas is not about the bigger idea, but rather about the commercialism, right? That's what culture says this season's all about. And so, but I want you to think for just a second about how you think. Now, we talk about left-brained people and right-brained people, right? So, with the idea, left-brained people think logically. Left-brained people tend to draw towards the sciences. Left-brained people tend to understand and follow intellect. I'm not saying left-brain people are smarter. Don't interpret that the wrong way. Okay? Right-brain people tend to be more intuitive about things. They tend to favor the arts over science, and they tend to have better common sense than left-brain folks. So with that kind of in mind, I'm just kind of curious. Let's just take a poll if you have the guts to admit for you, Paul. Who are my left-brain folks here? Okay. Now, here's the real. Who are my right-brain folks? And who are the ones that have no idea what you are? I tend to want to raise my hands in both of those, right? Because I mean, I can see some of both of that in me at different times, depending on what's going on. I think when it comes to my faith, I tend to be a more right-brain person, and I mean, I think our faith kind of begs that, doesn't it? Because I can't prove to you that Jesus was born of a virgin birth. I can't prove to you that he was resurrected. That requires a belief, knowing at a much deeper level in my heart that I can quote Scripture to you, and I can articulate my belief to you, but I can't logically prove that to you. It's a mystery, right? That's one of the key words in our faith. Our faith is a mystery. It truly is. And so we have a different kind of truth that we hang on to. It goes beyond being able to process it in our head and calculate the belief in Christ, because that's just not realistic. Because it's something we believe and understand and know here in our heart. It's a part of who we are, rather than something we construct around us, right? So it's a different kind of truth. Some people would tell you you're crazy for believing this kind of stuff, right? It's illogical. But it's not if you believe it here. Yes, a mystery. But yes, it lives here in my heart. Deep within my heart. So that's Act 1. Okay? Act 2. We're going to meet Chris Kringle for the first time. Okay? So I've already told you, he's already been hired, he's already rode in the Macy's State Parade, and it was such a success that Doris has hired him on the spot to be Santa Claus in the Macy's store.
Hey, good morning. Now, I am a striking costume. Before you go on the floor, I just want to give you a few tips on how to be a good Santa Claus. Well, here's a list of toys that we have to push, things that we're able to stop on. Now, you'll find that a great many children will be undecided as to what they want for Christmas. When that happens, you immediately suggest one of these items. Understand?
I certainly do.
Now, you memorize that list. I'll tell you, when you finish, come up to the 7th floor. I'll be waiting for you.
Imagine, maybe a child takes something it doesn't want, just because he bought too many of the wrong toys. That's what they've been fighting against for years, the way they commercialize Christmas.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad isms floating around this world, but one of the worst is commercials. Make 'em up, make 'em up. Even in Brooklyn it's the same. Don't tell what Christmas stands for, just make 'em up, make 'em up. Oh, don't bother, I'll put it away for you.
Huh? Thank you for that. Well, what should I do with these?
Throw 'em on the floor. I get kind of tired of sweeping the dust. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
And just whisper to me, the classic remaking of God in our own image. Right? The toy man who's coming to Santa Claus. Be Kris Kringle and telling him how to be a Kris Kringle. Right? It doesn't work that way. Everybody say, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely does not. And so we have this notion of commercialism versus a faith. Something that's stronger than anything else around us. And so we're trapped between these two, right? And it's tilted towards commercialism, especially this time of year, more than any other. You flip on your TV, there's commercial after commercial after commercial of go buy this, go spend your money on this, go do this, and it's all aimed at the ism that the young man talks about being the worst ism that's out there, commercialism. And it sucks us in. And if we allow it, this is the trap we fall into, if we allow it, it pulls the true meaning of Christmas out from under us. Because Christmas is, quite honestly, not about the gifts and the presents and the big meals and all of that. The meaning of Christmas is about Christ. It's about love. It's about hope. It's about joy. And all that resides in our lives. So the question that I want to ask is what does Chris do? He's faced at the certain day, he's been told, kid comes up, doesn't know what he wants for Christmas, here's the list. Fix my mistake. You know, in essence, that's what he's being told. Fix my mistake. And of course, if you've seen the movie, you know Chris does not do that. Quite the opposite, in fact. And, you know, in a couple of different scenes, one scene, a child jumps up on Chris's lap and says, I want such and such for Christmas. And Chris assures the child that he will get it for Christmas. And the next thing you know is you see that child's mother whispering in Chris's ear, says, I have shopped at every store in this town and it doesn't exist anywhere. How dare you tell my child he's going to get that for Christmas? Chris tells her where to go get it. It's a no-brainer. Another child's there telling you what he wants, and Chris calls the mother over and says, now you go to Gimbal. I keep forgetting the other name of the store. You can get it cheaper. Now, in case you don't know, Macy's and Gimbals are like the biggest competitors that there ever was in this time period. That's like you Ravens and Steelers fans, right? That's that kind of animosity that exists between these two. I knew you could relate to that. So and guess what? Chris is going to get in a lot of trouble for this kind of stuff, right? I mean, this is not going to go well for him. But what Chris is doing is he's putting the needs of the customers first. Now, you'll hear every store in the world tell you this is a true statement, but ever seen it played out like it plays out in this movie before? I've never had a store say, well, if you go to this store down here, you can buy it cheaper than you can in my store. I got to do that anymore myself, right? But Chris takes a step above, and we should see somebody in that, right? Right? You know, is this not what Jesus did? Jesus put us first. He did not put himself first. He put us first. And he calls us to do the same. He calls us to put others first. It's not about me. It's about us and our community and the world and all that's living. In Matthew, we read these words. So the last will be first, and the first will be last. In Philippians it says, let each of you look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. The interests of others. So what does Chris do? He points towards the real meaning of Christmas. Because in this moment, Chris is putting the other ahead of the interests of his employers. And it's just as we're called, to put others ahead of our own interests, to make a difference in this world. But here's the thing about this world that we live in. This is craziness. Especially if we call ourselves Santa Claus. What's his name?
How many days in the week? The first president of the United States, George Washington. How much is 3 times 5?
Oh, you asked me that before. You'll find the answer right there at the bottom of the... I conducted this examination. How much is 2 times 5?
The same as it was before.
15. You're rather nervous, aren't you, Mr. Sawyer? Do you get enough sleep?
Why? Personal habits are no concern to you. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just that I hate to see someone tied up. How many fingers do you see?
3. Oh, you bite your nails, too.
Now, I want you to stand with your feet together and your arms extended. Then I want you to trust in a coordination test.
Surely.
Be glad to.
You know, sometimes the cause of nervous habits like yours is not obvious. No. Often they're the result of insecurity. Are you happy at home, Mr. Sawyer?
That will be all, Mr. Bickle. Examination's over. You may go.
So the toy manager has decided that Chris is a little off his rocker, and that Dr. Sawyer needs to take a look and make sure that their Santa Claus is safe to be around people, right? That's what's going on here. But what we find is that the doctor has an issue with Chris, and in the end, the statement that's being thrown around is, lock him up. He said he is not safe to be around other people. It seems to me we've heard that before, right? Lock him up. Maybe it sounded a little bit more like crucify him. Okay? Because somebody was going above and beyond themselves. All of a sudden, they're not a good person. I don't understand that. That's the world we live in. Okay? And so, we live in a world that wants to crucify Jesus Christ. Watch this.
Sorry, lady. Get your coat. I reserved a regular table. Luigi's weird last time.
What are we celebrating?
We know about it. Davey from the bombshell in New York Supreme Court.
Yes, I read it.
Oh, this is front page. Good.
You're not serious about this.
Of course I am.
But you can't possibly do those sentences.
Why not? If you saw me see people shaking hands, that wasn't possibly when it happened.
Honestly,
It's like that's defense accusation. Completely illogical and completely unexpected.
completely wrong. What about your bosses, Asa and Mackenzie and the rest of them? What do they say?
I'm jeopardizing the prestige and dignity of an old-established law firm, and either I drop this impossible case immediately, or they will drop me.
See?
Quit.
Afraid you didn't.
Of course I didn't. I can't let Chris down. He needs me, and all the rest of us need him.
Look, Ernie. He's a nice old man. I admire you for what he can. But you've got to be realistic and face facts. You can't just throw your career away because it's sentimental whim.
But I'm not throwing my career away.
But if Haster feels that way, so will every other law firm in town.
Sure, but I'll open my own lines.
And what kind of cases will you get?
Oh, probably a lot of people like Chris are being pushed around. That's the only fun in it. I promise you, if you believe in me, have faith in me, everything will... You don't have faith in me, do you?
It's not a question of fate, it's just common sense.
There's no common sense about you, not to. Don't you see, it's not just Chris that's on trial, it's everything he stands for. It's kindness and joy and love and all the other intangibles.
Oh, Fred, you're talking like a child. You're living in a realistic world, and those lovely intangibles of yours are attractive but not worth very much. You don't get ahead that way.
It all depends on what you call getting ahead. Evidently, you and I have different definitions.
These last few days, we talked about some wonderful plans. And then you go on an idealistic binge. You give up your job, you throw away all your security, and then you expect me to be happy about it.
Yes, I guess I expected too much. Look to us. Someday you're going to find out that your way of facing this realistic world just doesn't work. When you do, don't overlook those lovely intangibles. You'll discover they're the only things that are worthwhile.
A couple things that happened in that scene. Did you catch her saying that Macy's and Gimbels shook hands, and nobody ever thought that was going to happen before, right? And she's talking about the intangibles. She's talking about the logic of her faith in this conversation. You can't touch that. You can't feel that. You can't know that. You can't calculate that. And he reminds her about the intangibles. And it's in his last statement that he makes. Someday you're going to find that your way of facing this realistic world just doesn't work. And when you do, don't overlook those lovely intangibles. You'll discover they're the only things that are worthwhile. Only things that are worthwhile. Those intangibles that we talk about. This time of year, a deeper truth, we talk about hope, peace, love, and joy. Those are the themes we're going to use over the next 4 weeks. Those are all intangibles. We can't touch those. We can't calculate them. We can see them in each other. And if we act like Christians and we truly become Christians in this world and live our life out as Chris Kringle is trying his best to live his out, others are going to see these same ideas. These ideas of hope and joy and love and peace that truly begin to change the world around us and make a difference in the world. In Hebrew again, read it with me this time. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the convictions of things not seen. In Romans, Paul wrote this same verse this way. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that you may abound in hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Abound in hope. To be filled with hope. To know hope intimately and personally is what Paul wishes and prays for each and every single one of us.
letters have just now been delivered to Mr. Kringle by bona fide employees of the post office. I offer them as positive proof that the
3 letters, Your Honor, are hardly positive proof. I understand the post office receives thousands of these letters every year.
I have further exhibits, Your Honor, but I hesitate to produce them.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be very happy to see them.
Yes. Produce them, Mr. King. Put them here on my desk.
But, Your Honor...
Put them here on the desk.
Yes.
That's my favorite scene in the whole movie. I love that. I just think about that for a second. Okay, so in the movie, the post office is going to make Fred's case, right? Because they have decided that he truly is Chris Kringle. And they're going to send all the letters that they're collecting to the courthouse because they know where he's at right now for the first time ever. So they know where to send them. And we're excited about that. But I want you to think about that in terms of your faith right now. Are you willing to pour out your faith to that level, to that degree? Do you believe in what you believe in strong enough and faithfully enough to pour it out in that context? To approach the world who does not know Christ? To show love in every situation that you find yourself in? To pronounce hope in every single place that you find yourself? That's what's taking place here. Love is being proclaimed. In this case, the love of man, but why not the love of Jesus Christ? Why shouldn't our love be proclaimed in such a way? So profoundly and loudly and clearly that Jesus is Lord and Savior. That's what we're called to do. That's who we are called to be. So the question becomes, who really is Chris Kringle? Who really is Chris Kringle? Now, in Martin Luther's day, the idea of Christmas had just started to get a little out of control. The commercialism was starting to kick in. And so he wanted to kind of change things a little bit and help people get back to the true meaning of Christmas. So he reminded them of St. Nicholas, whom Chris Kringle is. This is where the story comes from. This is where it got its begin. St. Nicholas was a bishop of Myra in the 4th century. This is in modern-day Turkey. A bishop of the church knew that there were people in his community that were hurting and struggling, specifically, well, in his time it was year-round. It wasn't a season. And he wanted to make a difference. He wanted to do something about those that had a need. But at the same time, the bishop knew, because he's been taught, just like you and I have, that he needed to be humble in doing this. It wasn't, because when I come in, Bill, I've got some great stuff for you. I just want you to have this because I know you were in need. And boy, I feel good because I just did that. That's not what the bishop wants to happen. He wants it to come from a humble heart, from a place of true love, true care. So what he did is he would put gold coins down in a sock or stocking or something, and in the homes that he knew there were trouble, he would just toss it in the window in the middle of the night. Some say he dropped it down the chimneys. So he was anonymously providing for the needs of others, putting his own need ahead of them. St. Nicholas pointed towards Jesus Christ. This is who Jesus is in our lives. He's always there, no matter what we've got going on. He's always there, even when we don't know we need him. He shows up in every single situation in our lives. And he makes a difference in our lives by doing that. And when we realize he's there, we become part of that ministry, we're part of that hope and love to the world, and we share what we know. We share what we have been given, because we don't want anybody to go without. Right? For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you took care of me. I was in prison and you visited me. This is who Jesus says we are. To truly make a difference in the world. St. Nicholas, or Martin Luther, was the giver of gifts. The giver of gifts. And he started to try to get a trend to call him Christ Kindle. Christ Kindle literally means the Christ child. And that's where the idea of Christ Kringle comes from. It goes back to the real meaning of Christmas, the Christ child. And that's where this season begins and ends. Christ Kringle. So, who is Christ Kringle? He's not Jesus, Priscilla. He's not Jesus. Who is Christ Kringle today? You are. Every single one of you. Because you are a child of God. And you are called to be givers of hope, bringers of hope. And that's our challenge. Is to a broken world to bring hope in every situation that we find ourselves in. The highs, the lows, and everything in between is to bring hope. That's one of the many messages that's buried in this movie. And this movie goes on. There's a beautiful ending that I'm not even talking about today. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. It's just an amazing story if you really can focus in on the Christ story in the midst of all of this. Because it's there, it's loud, and it's very clear. And it teaches us who we are to be in this world. We are to be people of hope. Let's read this again together. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Let's pray. Almighty God, I give thanks for your place in our hearts. I give thanks for all of those that have gathered here this morning to be with one another, to be in your very presence this morning, dear Lord, as we share the real meaning of Christmas, dear Lord. So, Lord, it is in this day and in this moment that we seek your strength and your courage to truly be bringers of hope into this world, dear Lord. Give us the strength to go out into this world and be people of hope. Because it is hope this broken world so dearly needs. It is hope that will begin to bring your kingdom into the present. It is hope that will change my life and everybody else's life, that begins to understand our trust, a different kind of believing in you. So Lord, we pray all of this in your most holy Son's name. And all God's people said, Amen.